happened this morning. The world's first independent national sperm bank is opening in Birmingham today. There's a national shortage of donors. We've talked about that in the past. It's another one of those things that people seem to get a little bit uncomfortable about. There's a lot of kind of, laughing behind hands and kind of pointing and blushing. And we thought, you know what, let's just talk about it. And let's bring in the chief executive of the National Gamete Donation Trust, Lara Witjens. She came up with the idea. You came up with the idea, Lara, apparently.
Absolutely. Good morning, first of all.
Good morning.
I know there's a shortage, and I was part of the group that recognised that a national approach was the best way of doing it. There are too many patients across England who can't have the children, and we just need to attack it. I've been involved in this field for many, many years. I like to think that I know what makes future sperm donors tick, what makes men tick, and yeah, let's go from here.
How have they worked in the past then? How did sperm banks work in the past, and what's changed with how this is going to work?
There are some clinics in the UK that recruit very well. They've got a surplus, but they're typically private, and they're indeed in London and Manchester. So if you are anywhere outside London or Manchester, you're basically stuffed. You have to either go underground, unregulated services, or buy sperm from abroad. So what this is a national approach. Clearly in Birmingham, what we try to do is have so many sperm donors that all the patients across England can buy in, or the clinics rather, can buy it from the Birmingham Women's Hospital and have equal access across England. That's what it's all about.
But why Birmingham?
First of all, Birmingham is, of course, a great place to be in. It's got a very young population, a very young male population. And one of the important things is as well, it's got a very mixed ethnic population, which is very important. And there is already an existing, very well-functioning NHS clinic here as well.
We mentioned earlier on, we spoke earlier on to someone who has used a sperm donation. We talked to someone who has been a sperm donor themselves. And we were talking about this change in the law whereby now when a child who's been conceived through a sperm donation turns 18, they can go and look for their biological father. Do you think that is something that has added to the national shortage of donors, do you think?
No, in fact, it has increased with over 100%, which
really?
I know surprises quite a few people. The type of donor has changed. What has happened is, although there's been a massive increase, there's also been a massive increase of patients. And demand is still outstripping supply, and that's why we need this. But in itself, I mean, people who are conceived by sperm donation or indeed egg donation, they're not looking for a replacement father. They just want to find out, do I have my curly hair from them, or my musical talent? They are curious, they're not looking for anything more complicated than that, really.
So that kind of goes back to, it was James we spoke to, and he says on the form that he has, he puts as much information as he can of, this is what I was like when I was younger, this is how I am, this is a photo of me the day I'm here and writing this form. Yep. So sometimes, really, like you say, the child doesn't need to find the actual person. They're going to find those answers that they need about, did I get my curly hair? Did I get my sense of humour from them, from that form, aren't they?
They will find a lot from that form. There still remains that there will be people curious just to want to meet that person. But indeed, the more you put out there as your donor, the more they're satisfied. But that's what they're after. Does he have a sense of humour? Does he like sports? Is he musical? And that makes perfect sense. I mean, if I look at my own language, how often I refer to my parents, how often I refer to my genetic background, it makes perfect sense to be curious.
It's a fascinating subject. I've really enjoyed talking about it this morning and speaking to James and Sarah, the donors, and someone who's used the service. It was incredible, and it's lovely to meet you as well. Thank you very much for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
Lara Witjens from the National Gamete Donation Trust.